The stars looked different from the bridge of the Intrepid. Commander Lisa Morgan stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the vast emptiness of space through the main viewport. The ship had traveled farther than any human vessel. Before it, beyond the safety of Earth's solar system. Their mission was simple: explore the outer reaches of nearby star systems and collect data. No one expected they would make history today. "Commander, we're picking up something strange," said Officer Paul Hayes, his eyes fixed on the sensor readings. "There's an energy signature I've never seen before, about 200,000 kilometers off our port side." Lisa walked over to his station and looked at the display. The readings made no sense. Whatever they were detecting wasn't natural. "Is it a malfunction?" she asked. "I've run 3 diagnostics. The sensors are working perfectly," Paul replied. Lisa turned to her communications officer. "Nathan, are we receiving any signals?" Lieutenant Nathan Riley shook his head. "Nothing, Commander. Wait." His console lit up with a series of rapid alerts. "We're being scanned. Multiple frequencies. Much more advanced than anything we have." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. They weren't alone. "Battle stations," Lisa ordered calmly. "Defensive posture only. We're explorers, not warriors. Let's make that clear from the start." The crew moved with practiced efficiency as the ship's alert status changed. Lisa returned to the viewport, searching for any visual sign of the unknown contact. At first, there was nothing. Then, a shimmer in the darkness caught her. A massive ship appeared where empty space had been just moments before. It looked like a giant crystal with surfaces that reflected starlight in ways that seemed impossible. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. "My God," someone whispered behind her. 2 more crystal ships appeared, flanking the first. They moved with grace that defied their enormous size, taking positions around the Intrepid without showing any obvious weapons. "Commander," Nathan called out, his voice shaking slightly. "We're receiving a transmission. It's not in any language I recognize, but our computers are somehow translating it." "Put it through," Lisa ordered. A voice filled the bridge, sounding almost musical but clearly artificial. "Greetings, travelers from Earth. We are the Tholian Confederacy. We have been observing your species for some time. Your journey beyond your star system indicates you are ready for the next step." Lisa took a deep breath before responding. "This is Commander Lisa Morgan of the United Earth Space Force vessel Intrepid. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship." There was a pause before the alien voice responded. "Your species has advanced quickly. Most take thousands of years to reach this point after discovering electricity. You have done it in less than 300 years. Lisa wasn't sure if that was a compliment or a concern. "We are curious by nature," she replied. "Yes, we have noticed this trait. It is both your greatest strength and your greatest danger," the voice said. "Commander Lisa Morgan, we have been authorized to extend an invitation to your species. The Galactic Council wishes to meet with representatives of humanity." The bridge erupted in whispers and gasps. Lisa held up her hand for silence. "What is this Galactic Council?" she asked. "The Council consists of 17 advanced species who govern interstellar relations, trade, and security in this part of the galaxy. An invitation to send representatives is rare. The last new species was admitted over 800 years ago." Lisa tried to process the implications. First contact with one alien species would have been historic enough. Now they were being told that there was an entire council of advanced civilizations. "Why now? Why us?" she asked. "That will be explained to your representatives. We can transport you to the council station immediately if you wish to accept." Lisa shook her head. "I appreciate the offer, but I must return to Earth with this news. Our leaders will want to select appropriate representatives for such an important meeting." The alien voice seemed to consider this. "Very well. We will escort your vessel back to your solar system. The council will await your formal delegation in 30 of your Earth days. Coordinates will be provided." The communication ended. Lisa turned to face her stunned crew. "Well," she said with a small smile, "it seems our mission parameters have changed. Set course for Earth. Maximum speed. We have some very interesting news to deliver. The return journey passed in a blur of activity and excitement. The three crystal ships followed at a respectful distance, occasionally moving closer to scan something or changing formation in ways that seemed almost playful. When they reached Earth orbit, one of the crystal ships positioned itself alongside the Intrepid, while the others remained at the edge of the solar system. Earth's defense forces were on high alert, but Lisa had managed to send messages ahead explaining the situation. The news spread quickly. Humanity's first contact with an alien civilization was being broadcast on every channel. People gathered in homes, bars, and public squares to watch as the crystal ship hovered in orbit, visible even in daylight as a bright star that didn't move with the others. In an emergency session of the United Earth Council, leaders from all nations met to select a delegation. The debate was intense. Some wanted to send only scientists and diplomats arguing for a peaceful approach. Others insisted on military representation, concerned about Earth's security. In the end, they chose 4 primary representatives: Captain Daniel Wright, a decorated officer with diplomatic experience; Dr. Samantha Reeves, a brilliant xenobiologist; Professor Alan Carter, the world's foremost linguist; and Colonel Grace Williams, a military strategist renowned for her innovative thinking. Ambassador Susan Clark, who had helped negotiate the United Earth Treaty that ended the last global conflict, was selected to lead the delegation. As the chosen representatives prepared for their historic journey, Captain Wright sought out Commander Morgan, who had been temporarily assigned to Earth Command following her return. "Any advice?" he asked her as they stood in the observation lounge, watching the alien ship shimmer against the backdrop of space. Lisa considered the question carefully. They seemed peaceful, but curious about us in a way that felt evaluating. Like they were trying to determine something important. Whether we're a threat, Daniel suggested. Maybe. Or whether we're worthy of whatever this invitation means. She turned to face him. The Tholian said our curiosity was both our greatest strength and our greatest danger. I've been thinking about that a lot. Daniel nodded. Throughout our history, human curiosity has led to both our greatest achievements and our worst atrocities. Which version of humanity will you show them, Captain? The best version, he replied without hesitation. The version that dreams of a better future among the stars. Lisa smiled. Then I think Earth is sending the right people. 3 weeks later, a specially designed ship carrying Earth's first official delegation left orbit, escorted by the Crystal, ships of the Tholian Confederacy. As they accelerated beyond the solar system, leaving the familiar behind, none of the delegates could have imagined the true reason for their invitation, or the trials that awaited them among the stars. Humanity had taken its first step onto the galactic stage. The universe would never be the same. The human delegation ship emerged from its final jump point near Helios Prime. Everyone on the bridge fell silent as they got their first view of the Galactic Council station. It was enormous, like a small moon, but clearly artificial. Parts of it sparkled with lights while other sections seemed to be made of materials that absorbed all light. The station orbited a beautiful blue-green planet that reminded the humans of Earth. "It's incredible," whispered Ambassador Susan Clark. She had prepared for this moment for weeks, studying the limited information the Tholians had shared about Council protocols. Now, faced with the reality of what awaited them, she felt both awe and anxiety. Their ship was guided into a massive docking bay by automated systems. Captain Daniel Wright watched the procedure with professional interest, noting the advanced technology that made their own systems seem primitive by comparison. "Remember," Susan said to the delegation as they prepared to disembark, "we represent all of humanity. Every word, every gesture will be judged." Dr. Samantha Reeves adjusted her uniform. "No pressure then," she said with a nervous smile. The airlock opened to reveal 2 Tholians waiting for them. Up close, the aliens were even more fascinating. They stood about 7 feet tall, with bodies that seemed partially crystalline. Light played through their semi-transparent limbs, creating patterns that shifted and changed. "Welcome to Helios Station," one of the Tholians said, its voice musical and calm. "I am Guide Shilar. I will escort you to your quarters. You will have 6 hours to rest before the council convenes." The delegation followed their guides through corridors that seemed to change subtly as they walked. Other aliens passed them, some humanoid, others completely different from anything the humans had imagined. Some floated instead of walking, others moved on multiple legs. A few seemed to be made of living metal or gas contained in special suits. Colonel Grace Williams studied each new species they encountered, assessing potential threats and strengths with a soldier's eye. Professor Alan Carter tried to catch snippets of alien languages, his enhanced translator working overtime to make sense of the diversity of sounds. Their quarters were spacious and had been adapted for human comfort, though some features were clearly alien in design. Food dispensers offered Earth cuisine alongside samples of alien dishes labeled as safe for human consumption. "They've studied us well," Daniel commented, examining a perfectly replicated coffee machine. "Too well," Grace replied quietly. "I wonder what else they know about us." After resting and preparing, the delegation was escorted to the council chambers. The room was vast, with a circular design. 17 raised platforms surrounded a central speaking area. Each platform held representatives of a different species, some alone, others in small groups. The humans were led to the center of the chamber. Susan could feel the weight of alien gazes upon them. Some seemed curious, others wary, a few openly hostile. High Counselor Zelthar of the Arcturian Dominion rose from the largest platform. He was tall and slender with pale blue skin and 4 arms. His voice resonated throughout the chamber. "We welcome the representatives of Earth to this historic session of the Galactic Council. For 50,000 years, this council has maintained peace and order among the civilized species of our galaxy. Today we consider the application of a new species for observer status." Susan stepped forward. "Honorable counselors, on behalf of Earth and all humanity, we thank you for this invitation. We come seeking friendship, knowledge, and peaceful cooperation." Her words were met with murmurs from around the room. Some sounded approving, others skeptical. A large reptilian alien rose from one of the platforms. Unlike the graceful Arcturian, this creature moved with aggressive purpose. Scales along its neck darkened visibly. "I am Counselor Kresh of the Draconian Empire," it announced, voice harsh and grating. "Let us dispense with pleasantries. Humans have been granted this audience too quickly, without proper evaluation." Susan maintained her diplomatic smile, though she felt a chill at the creature's tone. "Our records show that humans have spent most of their history engaged in warfare," Kresh continued. "Even now, your weapons development outpaces your other technologies." Kresh gestured with a clawed hand, and images appeared in the air around the chamber. They showed Earth's history, ancient battles, world wars, and modern conflicts. The images shifted to show military installations, weapons tests, and space defense systems. "In the last 300 years, you have moved from primitive projectile weapons to nuclear arsenals and space-based defenses," Kresh said. "Your own planet bears the scars of your violence. Why should the Council believe humans are ready for galactic citizenship?" The chamber grew quiet. Susan looked to her delegation, silently asking who should respond to this challenge. To her surprise, it was the scientist who stepped forward. Dr. Samantha Reeves moved beside the ambassador. "Counselor Kresh speaks truth about our past," she said calmly. "Humans have fought many wars. We have made terrible mistakes, we do not deny this." She paused, looking around at the alien faces. "But our history is more than war. We have also created art, music, literature, and philosophy. We have healed sickness, explored our world, and reached for the stars not just with weapons, but with hope." Samantha gestured to the images still floating around them. "For every weapon we've created, we've also built schools, hospitals, and places of learning. For every soldier, we have teachers, healers, and creators." The images changed, showing Earth's achievements, great architecture, medical advances, space exploration, and cultural expressions. Kresh made a dismissive gesture. Pretty words, but facts remain. Your technological advancement curve is unprecedented. You develop too quickly without the wisdom to match your weapons. We have seen this pattern before with the extinct progenitors. We all remember how that ended. This statement caused visible reactions among several council members. Susan noticed the tension immediately. Who were the progenitors? She asked. Hi. Councillor Zelthar spoke before Kresh could answer. An ancient matter not relevant to these proceedings. What is relevant is whether humanity is ready for the responsibilities of council association. Another councillor, a being that seemed made of shifting light patterns, rose from its platform. Perhaps a demonstration would be appropriate. A test of human capabilities and character. Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Susan felt a growing sense of unease. This wasn't a diplomatic meeting. It was a trial. Captain Daniel, Wright stepped forward. If the council wishes to test us, we will accept the challenge. Humanity does not run from difficulties. Grace Williams gave him a warning look, but it was too late. The light being seemed pleased. Then it is decided, announced Zelthar. The human delegation will return tomorrow to hear the nature of their test. Until then, they may explore public areas of the station under escort. As they were led from the chamber, Professor Carter moved close to Susan. They're afraid of us, he whispered. Did you notice the reaction when Kresh mentioned the progenitors? There's history here we don't understand. Susan nodded slightly. Something isn't right. We need to learn more before tomorrow. What none of them realized was that their conversation was being monitored, translated, and analyzed by council security systems. In a private chamber far from the main council room, Kresh watched the humans with cold calculation. Just like the others, the Draconian said to a shadowy figure beside him. They will fail the test and Earth will be contained. It is the only safe option. The shadowy figure made no response, but its eyes gleamed with an emotion that might have been doubt. The human delegation split into pairs to explore the public areas of the council station. Ambassador Susan Clark insisted they could learn more by covering more ground. Dr. Samantha Reeves went with Professor Alan Carter to find the station's information archives. Colonel Grace Williams paired with Captain Daniel Wright to study the station's layout and security measures. Susan went alone, hoping to meet other diplomats in the communal areas. The station was like a small city in space. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved through wide corridors and open plazas. Some areas had gardens with strange plants. Others had markets where goods from across the galaxy were traded. In the archives, Samantha and Alan found themselves in a vast chamber filled with holographic displays. Alien visitors accessed information by standing in special booths. A helpful station attendant, a small four-armed being with purple skin, showed them how to use the human-adapted terminal. The council archives contain knowledge from all member species, the attendant explained. As potential observers, you may access public historical records. Alan began searching for information about the progenitors that Councillor Kresh had mentioned. Most references were locked behind security protocols, but he found scattered mentions in historical documents. Look at this, he said to Samantha, pointing to a document. It says the progenitors were an ancient species that advanced too quickly. They spread across thousands of worlds before the council was formed. Samantha read further. There was a war, something called the containment. The records are vague, but it seems the early council species fought against the progenitors. Alan switched to another document. This is interesting. There's genetic information here. The progenitor's DNA structure. He paused, his eyes widening. What is it? Samantha asked. It's remarkably similar to human DNA. The base pairs, the sequencing pattern, it's too close to be coincidence. Samantha looked around to make sure no one was watching them. Are you saying humans and these progenitors are related? I'm saying someone should compare these samples with human genome records. The similarity is striking. Meanwhile, Captain Wright and Colonel Williams were studying the station's security measures. Grace noticed patterns in the guard rotations and security checkpoints. Their security is tight but predictable, she whispered to Daniel. They trust their technology more than they should. Daniel nodded. We're being watched, though. Two different species have been following us since we left our quarters. At that moment, a tall, elegantly dressed alien approached them. The creature had silvery skin and moved with unusual grace. Greetings, humans. I am Diplomat Vex of the Andromedan Conclave. My government would be pleased if you would join us for a private reception. Daniel and Grace exchanged glances. This could be an opportunity to learn more. We would be honored, Daniel replied. The Andromedan led them to a secluded section of the station. The reception area was small but luxurious, with strange artwork on the walls and a view of the blue-green planet below. To their surprise, another human was waiting inside. Welcome, the man said, standing as they entered. I've waited a long time to meet other humans in person. Daniel stared in shock. You're human? How is that possible? The man smiled. My name is Eric Foster. I was part of a deep space expedition 30 years ago. My ship was damaged in an asteroid field and the Andromedans rescued me. I've been living among them ever since, serving as an unofficial advisor on human matters. Grace studied him suspiciously. Why haven't we heard about your expedition? Why didn't you return to Earth? Eric's smile faded. Because my mission wasn't exactly official, and because I learned things that Earth wasn't ready to know. He gestured for them to sit. But now that you're here, there's much I need to tell you. In another part of the station, Ambassador Clark found herself in a diplomatic lounge where representatives from various species gathered informally. She tried to engage several aliens in conversation, but most seemed reluctant to speak with her. As she was about to leave, a hooded figure approached. The being wore robes that completely covered its body, with only two glowing eyes visible within the hood. Ambassador Clark, a voice spoke directly into her mind. I am Counselor Ix of the Eridani. We are a telepathic species. I hope this method of communication does not disturb you. Susan tried to hide her surprise. Not at all, Counselor. I appreciate your willingness to speak with me. Walk with me, the telepathic voice suggested. There are things you should know that cannot be spoken openly. They walked together to a quiet viewing area overlooking the docking bays. The massive station curved away beneath them, ships of various designs coming and going. Your species stands at a crossroads, Ix communicated. The council debate is merely theater. The decision about humanity was made before your arrival. Susan felt a chill. What decision? Humanity will be offered a choice between protected status, essentially glorified quarantine, or proving your worthiness through trial. What kind of trial? The alien's telepathic response was grim. War always reveals the true nature of a species. Back in Eric Foster's quarters, he was explaining the situation to Daniel and Grace. 3 council species have been studying Earth for centuries, he said. The Draconians, the Eridani, and the Vespid Collective. They have outposts disguised as astronomical phenomena in your outer solar system. Why? Daniel asked. They fear you, Eric explained. Not for what you are, but for what you might become. Humans adapt faster than any species they've encountered. Your technological growth curve is unprecedented. Grace leaned forward. Like the progenitors, Eric looked surprised. You know about them? Only mentions. What's the connection? Eric sighed. The progenitors weren't just similar to humans. According to Andromedan records, they may have been your ancestors, or more accurately, you may be their descendants. Daniel and Grace were stunned into silence. The original progenitors spread throughout the galaxy millions of years ago, Eric continued. When the early council species rose to power, they saw the progenitors as a threat. There was a war that nearly destroyed the galaxy. The progenitors were defeated, their civilization shattered. But some believe they seeded primitive versions of themselves on isolated worlds before their defeat. Earth, Daniel whispered, and possibly others. Eric nodded. The council founders have been monitoring these worlds, ensuring none of the child species advance too quickly. Earth has been of particular concern because of how rapidly humans have developed technology. So this invitation isn't about diplomacy, Grace said bitterly. It's about containment. The Andromedans and several other newer council species disagree with the old guard's approach, Eric said. They believe in cooperation rather than control. That's why they've protected me all these years. Diplomat Vex, who had been quiet until now, spoke. We arranged this meeting because we believe humans deserve to know the truth. The test you will be offered tomorrow is designed for failure. You must be prepared. When the delegation reunited in their quarters, they shared what they had learned. Susan's meeting with the Eridani counselor, Samantha and Alan's discovery in the archives, and the disturbing revelations from Eric Foster and the Andromedans all pointed to the same conclusion. Humanity had walked into a trap centuries in the making. So what do we do? Samantha asked. Refuse the test? That would only confirm their suspicions, Susan replied. They would declare us uncooperative and impose their protected status immediately. Daniel paced the room. We take the, test, but on our terms. If they want to see what humans do in a crisis, we'll show them. The question is, Grace said quietly, do we show them what they expect to see or do we surprise them? Alan, who had been analyzing the genetic data on his tablet, looked up. We surprise them. That's what humans do best. As the delegation prepared for the next day's council session, none of them knew that their conversations were being monitored by multiple factions. The ancient game of galactic politics had entered a new phase, with humanity as both pawn and potential kingmaker. Across the station, alliances were forming and breaking. The future of not just Earth but the entire Galactic Council hung in the balance. The human delegation returned to the council chambers the next day. The room seemed more crowded than before, with additional aliens watching from observation areas above the main floor. Susan Clark led her team to the center of the chamber, her face calm despite the tension they all felt. High Counselor Zelthar rose from his seat. Representatives of Earth, the Council has deliberated on your petition for observer status. While we acknowledge humanity's achievements, concerns remain about your readiness to join galactic society. Counselor Kresh of the Draconians made a harsh sound that might have been laughter. Let us be direct. Your species has shown remarkable technological growth, but questionable judgment in how you use that technology. Murmurs of agreement came from several council members. Zelthar raised a hand for silence. Therefore, the council proposes a demonstration of human capabilities and character. There is a situation in the Antares sector that requires immediate attention. A non-sentient biological weapon known as the Scourge has broken containment and threatens several inhabited systems. Images appeared above the chamber, showing strange cloud-like organisms consuming everything in their path. Space stations, ships, and even small moons were being dissolved by the creatures. 3 council outposts have already been lost, Zelthar continued. If humanity wishes to prove its worthiness, you will lead the defense of the remaining worlds in the sector. Colonel Grace Williams stepped forward. Counselor, with respect, Earth is months away from the Antares sector, even with our fastest ships. How could we possibly reach this area in time to help? A new alien rose from one of the platforms, a being with multiple tentacles and skin that shifted colors as it spoke. The Council will provide transport technology to expedite your journey. You may bring your own ships and weapons through our jump gates. Susan looked at Grace, who gave a slight nod. The colonel had immediately understood what wasn't being said. This was no simple test. It was a suicide mission. The Council was asking Earth to sacrifice ships and soldiers to fight an enemy they knew nothing about. How many other Council species will join this defense effort? Daniel Wright asked. Zelthar's expression was unreadable. Given the unique nature of this test, humanity must demonstrate its capabilities independently. Council observers will monitor your performance. I see, Susan said. And if we decline this opportunity? Then Earth would be granted protected status, Kresh said smoothly. Your solar system would be designated as a development zone. Council technology would ensure no human ships venture beyond prescribed boundaries until your species reaches appropriate maturity. In other words, Susan thought, Earth would become a prison, A cage for humanity. We request time to consult with our government, she said. Of course, Zelthar agreed. You have 3 days to provide your answer. As the delegation left the chamber, they could feel the eyes of the council members following them. Once they were alone in their quarters, Grace exploded. It's worse than we thought. They're not just testing us, they're trying to get rid of us. Daniel nodded grimly. The Scourge has already destroyed 3 advanced outposts. What chance would Earth ships have against something like that? We need to learn more about this weapon, Samantha said. If it's biological, maybe there's a weakness we could exploit. Alan was already working on his tablet. I'll see what information I can find in the public archives, but I suspect the most useful data will be restricted. Susan paced the room. We need to contact Earth immediately. The Council gave us access to their communication array for this purpose. Be careful what you say, Grace warned. They'll be monitoring everything. Susan nodded. I'll stick to the facts. Earth's leaders need to know what they're really asking of us. The next day brought grim news. Earth's unified government had received the Council's proposal with alarm, but saw no real choice. Refusing the test would mean accepting permanent confinement to the solar system, a death sentence for humanity's dreams of expansion among the stars. They're authorizing us to accept the challenge, Susan told her team after the secure communication ended. They're mobilizing the Space Force fleet now. How many ships? Grace asked. Everything we have that can fight. 27 combat vessels, including the flagship Defiance. Admiral Jack Peters will command the fleet. Daniel whistled softly. That's almost half our total Space Force. The President knows the risks, Susan said quietly, but he also understands the stakes. While the delegation prepared their formal response to the Council, Samantha and Alan continued researching the Scourge. They managed to access limited, scientific data through the public archives, but it wasn't enough. We need more information, Samantha said in frustration. Everything useful is locked behind security clearances we don't have. That evening, they received an unexpected visitor. Eric Foster arrived at their quarters with Diplomat Vex of the Andromedans. We may be able to help, Eric said after the room was checked for listening devices. The Andromedans have fought the Scourge before centuries ago. They have data that isn't in the Council records. Vex placed a small crystal on the table. This contains tactical information about the Scourge, its weaknesses, behavior patterns, and biological structure. Grace picked up the crystal. Why would you help us? Because the old Council powers are playing a dangerous game, Vex replied. They created the Scourge as a weapon long ago, during the war with the progenitors. It was supposed to be destroyed afterward, but some samples were preserved for study. They created it? Daniel asked in shock. Eric nodded. The Draconians designed it specifically to target progenitor biology, and since humans share certain genetic markers with the progenitors, it will be especially effective against us, Samantha finished for him. The test is rigged, Susan said bitterly. They're sending us against a weapon designed to kill our genetic ancestors. Vex's skin changed to a deep blue color. Not all Council members support this action. The Andromedans, Tholians, and 3 other factions believe humanity deserves a fair chance. That's why we're providing this information. When the crystal's data was analyzed, the situation became even clearer. The Scourge was a semi-intelligent, biological weapon that adapted to attacks. Conventional weapons damaged it, but it quickly developed resistance. The Draconians had engineered specific vulnerabilities into the creature, but those weaknesses could only be exploited with technology. Humans didn't possess. So that's their game, Grace said. Send us against an enemy they know we can't defeat, then use our failure as proof that humanity isn't ready for the stars. Samantha had been studying the biological data intently. Suddenly, she looked up with excitement in her eyes. Maybe we can't defeat it the way they expect, she said. But what if we tried something completely different? What do you have in mind? Susan asked. The Scourge is essentially a programmable biological machine. It has base genetic code that tells it what to attack and what to ignore. Samantha pointed to a complex molecular diagram. If we could alter this code, reprogram it? Alan asked. Is that even possible? Theoretically, we'd need to create a delivery system, maybe modified medical nanites that could rewrite the creature's base genetic code. Daniel leaned forward. Instead of fighting it, we turn it off, Samantha finished. Or even better, we reprogram it to ignore human targets. The idea was radical. It would require resources Earth barely had and technology they were still developing. But it was their best hope. 3 days after the Council's proposal, the human delegation gave their answer. They would accept the challenge. Earth would send its fleet to the Antares sector to fight the Scourge. What they didn't tell the Council was that they would be fighting in a way no one expected. As preparations began for Earth's fleet to travel through the Council's jump gates, Admiral Jack Peters received encrypted instructions from the delegation. When he read Samantha's plan, he smiled grimly. "Typical humans," he said to his executive officer. "When the game is rigged, change the rules." The fate of humanity would soon be decided, not through brute force but through ingenuity, the one quality that had always defined their species. For 2 weeks, the Galactic Council heard nothing from the human fleet in the Antares sector. The last reports from observation posts showed Earth ships engaging the Scourge, suffering heavy losses, and then all communications ceased. Most Council members assumed the test had ended as expected, with humanity's defeat. The Draconians were already drafting containment protocols for Earth when the station's sensors detected multiple ships emerging from hyperspace directly above the Council station. The flagship Defiance had returned along with half of the human fleet. The vessels showed battle damage, scorched hulls, missing sections, emergency repairs, but they had survived. More importantly, they had returned when no one expected them to. In the Council chambers, confusion reigned. The scheduled session on Earth's containment was interrupted when Admiral Jack Peters requested permission to address the Council. The human delegation, who had remained at the station awaiting news, entered alongside the Admiral. High Counselor Zelthar could hardly conceal his surprise. "Admiral Peters, the Council welcomes your return. We had received no communications from the battle zone." "Communication was difficult under the circumstances," Jack replied calmly. His uniform was torn, and a fresh scar ran across his face. "But as you can see, we have completed your test." Counselor Kresh rose from his seat, scales darkening with emotion. "What happened to the Scourge?" "Our monitoring stations reported you engaged the creatures and then all signals were lost." Jack looked to Dr. Samantha Reeves, who stepped forward with a small container. "The Scourge has been neutralized," she said, placing the container on the central platform. "This is what remains." Inside the transparent container was a gray, inert substance. It looked like ash or sand, nothing like the terrifying organism they had been sent to fight. "Impossible," Kresh hissed. "The Scourge cannot be destroyed by conventional weapons. Your level of technology is insufficient." "You're right," Samantha agreed, "which is why we didn't use conventional weapons." She activated a small device and holographic images appeared above the container. They showed the Scourge attacking human ships, dissolving metal and energy shields on contact. Then the images changed to show small probes being launched into the cloud-like organisms. "We used modified medical nanites to rewrite the Scourge's base genetic code," Samantha explained. "Instead of trying to destroy it with weapons, we essentially turned it off." The Council chambers erupted in shocked murmurs. Ambassador Susan Clark stepped forward. "This was not the only discovery we made in the Antares sector," she said. Her voice was calm, but there was steel beneath her words. "We also found evidence that the Scourge was not a natural threat that escaped containment as you claimed." Admiral Peters nodded to his officers, who brought forward additional containers and data cores. "The Scourge was an engineered weapon, created by the same Council factions that pushed for our test. Its genetic structure was specifically designed to target biology similar to human DNA. Professor Alan Carter added, "We also found these in abandoned research facilities near the containment zone." He displayed holographic images of ancient artifacts and data records. Evidence linking humans to the extinct Solarians, what you call progenitors. Evidence suggesting that ancient humans had been deliberately scattered across multiple worlds as an experiment by Council founders. The council chambers fell completely silent. Many members looked shocked, while others, particularly the newer species, seemed unsurprised, as if they had long suspected such things. "We came seeking friendship," Admiral Peters continued, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Instead, we found treachery. We have no desire for war, but make no mistake. Humanity will not be contained, controlled, or exterminated." Counselor Kresh stood, his posture threatening. "These accusations are baseless. The human delegation clearly misunderstands ancient history and technology beyond their comprehension." "Do we?" Colonel Grace Williams stepped forward, her military bearing unmistakable. "Then perhaps you can explain why the Scourge contains genetic markers identical to draconian military bioweapons? We found the research files, Counselor. Files that bear your personal encryption signature." Kresh's scales flushed almost black. Before he could respond, another council member spoke. "The Andromedan representative. The Andromedan Conclave formally recognizes these findings," the alien announced. "We have suspected such manipulations for centuries but lacked proof. Humanity has provided what we could not." One by one, other council members rose. The Tholians, the light beings called Luminians, and two others. Each formally acknowledged humanity's evidence and distanced themselves from the deception. High Counselor Zelthar looked around at his divided council. For the first time in thousands of years, the ruling body was fracturing openly. "This matter requires investigation," he said finally. "Until such time as these serious allegations can be properly examined, the test results regarding Earth's status must be considered inconclusive." Susan Clark shook her head. "No, Counselor. The test results are perfectly clear. Humanity was meant to fail, yet we succeeded through innovation rather than brute force. We were meant to die, yet we returned with truth that some on this council have hidden for millennia." She looked around the chamber. "Earth does not accept your judgment. We reject both your offer of containment and your authority to test us. Instead, we propose a new arrangement." The Admiral handed her a datapad, which she activated. A new treaty document appeared in the air for all council members to see. Earth, along with the Andromedan Conclave, the Tholian Confederacy, and all other council members who value truth and self-determination, are forming a new association. Not a controlling council, but a true alliance of equals. Kresh slammed his clawed hand down. "This is rebellion, treachery." "No," Susan replied calmly. "This is evolution. The old council was founded on fear and control. What we propose is based on cooperation and mutual respect." The chamber erupted in chaos as council members argued among themselves. Some immediately signaled their support for the human proposal, while others remained loyal to the old system as the human delegation prepared to return to their ships. Captain Daniel Wright stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the council station through the view screen. "We came looking for our place among the stars," he remarked quietly to Colonel Williams. "Instead, we may have started a galactic civil war." Grace nodded grimly. History often pivots on such moments. For better or worse, the galaxy will never be the same. She paused, looking at the stars that now seemed both more welcoming and more dangerous. "And neither will we." On Earth, as news spread of both humanity's triumph and the dangerous new reality they faced, military and scientific facilities hummed with renewed purpose. The species that had spent millennia fighting itself now looked to the stars with unity born of necessity. Humanity had reached the Galactic Council seeking peace. Now, war resounded in their wake, not because they had chosen it, but because they had refused to be victims. And in that defiance was the very essence of what made humans both feared and respected throughout the cosmos. The question that remained, as humanity prepared for an uncertain future among the stars, would they become the monsters they had been portrayed as? Or would they forge a new path, one that might, in time, heal the divisions their arrival had exposed? Dr. Samantha Reeves stood in her lab on the returning flagship, studying the neutralized Scourge samples. In them, she saw both destruction and possibility, the same duality that had always defined her species. "Perhaps that's what they truly feared about us," she said to no one in particular. Not that we are violent, but that we see possibilities where others see only what is. As Earth's ships made their way home, they carried with them new allies, new technologies, and new understanding of their place in the universe. The stars had never seemed so bright, or the future so uncertain. The day humanity reached the Galactic Council, everything changed, for everyone.